Everybody is awesome!
Let's do it tomorrow! Let's do it!
For 36 days, party leaders have been pushing their messages.
Everybody must be free.
Courting your support and, most importantly, your vote.
Great to see you guys.
Now we're down to the one day that matters most. Good evening, I'm Ian Hannah-Mansing. Tonight, special coverage on the eve of the federal election. Many Canadians casting their ballots tomorrow in a race affected by the pandemic, but about all kinds of issues.
Housing is a very big problem.
The price of food, price of gas.
Climate change. Our environment, it's deteriorating rapidly.
Freedom is the biggest issue over your body and your health.
Tonight, the last-minute pitches, the lasting impressions, and what could happen on election night. This is The National. And this, for hundreds of candidates from various parties, is the goal. Parliament Hill. It is quiet there this evening as so many people across the country wait to see if they'll win a coveted seat in the House of Commons. There is complexity in every election, and this time around, the pandemic is adding an extra layer, affecting how and where people vote, and it could delay when we learn some of the results. But no matter how it all plays out, CBC News will have you covered. Here's a look at our election studio in Toronto, where we'll be tracking it all tomorrow night. But tonight, that tracking is happening on the road. Our reporters are with each of the main national parties as they make a crucial last push. Liberal leader Justin Trudeau hit 4 provinces today and held 2 virtual events. Ashley Burke with how he was driving home his main campaign message.
Bon matin, mes amis!
A last-minute campaign blitz, Justin Trudeau going flat out on the final day.
Canada is at a crossroads. We now get to pick the right direction for our country to keep moving forward or to let Conservatives take us back.
The marathon started early in Quebec. Trudeau's message, Canadians have a choice to make. Who do they trust to lead them out of the pandemic?
We're seeing right now what the wrong choices made in Alberta and Saskatchewan have led to. We do not need a Conservative government that won't be able to show the leadership on vaccinations and on science that we need to end this.
Trudeau's next stop, Ontario, where he continued his attacks against his main rival, Conservative leader Erin O'Toole.
He can't even make his own candidates choose to get vaccinated.
We're gonna get it, we're gonna get it.
We are.
At every stop, Trudeau continuing to make his pitch to progressives to vote strategically and not for other parties.
The party with both the ability to stop the Conservatives and the best plan is the Liberal Party of Canada. So I need you to get out there.
The mood on the campaign optimistic, but the Liberals today tight-lipped on their expectations.
We don't take anything for granted, particularly when it comes to, people, progressive voters, and that's exactly why we'll be still knocking on doors this afternoon and getting out our vote.
After Trudeau hopscotches across the country, he'll end the day in Battleground, BC, then take a red-eye flight back to Montreal, where he likely won't get in until after the polls open. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Niagara Falls.
Conservative leader Erin O'Toole took a different approach today, zeroing in on one particular area. Hannah Thibodeau with his final pitch to voters.
You guys ready for the real run now?
Erin O'Toole went for a long jog this morning, but there was no urgent sprinting for the Conservative leader in the final day of campaigning.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Great to see everyone.
He made a series of stops in the Greater Toronto area, where there are close to 60 ridings. Several are up for grabs. Many races are so close, the Conservative leader and the Liberal leader have visited the same locations within days, even within hours of each other. Today, O'Toole was pumping up campaign volunteers to get out the vote.
So I want you in this final stretch to talk to your neighbors. Go to the Tim Hortons, talk to the person in line with you, distanced of course. Talk to everyone about our positive vision, Canada's recovery plan.
To avoid distracting from his core message, he didn't take questions from reporters. Taken out the side door of a campaign office in Markham, Ontario, to avoid them.
truth.
The Conservative leader is casting this election as a referendum on Justin Trudeau's decision to call it in the first place.
We need an ethical government focused on the well-being of Canadians, not by grabbing onto power with a $600 million pandemic election.
It's a message that's resonating with some voters.
I think it was sure bad timing. Everybody's having a hard time with this, and now you put an election on.
It wasn't necessary, obviously, to call it, but it didn't deter me or sway me either way.
We voted blue. We need a change.
Tonight, O'Toole made his last pitch to about 150 supporters here in Toronto. Now he's hoping to win this province, something he said he could do, and it may be a decider tomorrow. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Toronto.
And on this last day of campaigning, let's check up on the other parties. Olivia Stefanovich begins in Surrey, BC, with the NDP campaign.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is making one last aggressive push to get the vote out, with 7 stops and ridings held by the Conservatives and Liberals. Singh says he's proud of the campaign he's run, trying to draw a sharp contrast between himself and his main political rival.
We have shown Canadians a lot of hope. We've given people a real choice. We've shown how Mr. Trudeau has been all for show and they deserve better. We've shown how we'll be fighters for them.
Singh says he's running to be prime minister, but in a minority government situation, if the NDP holds the balance of power, Singh will negotiate for his priority, to make billionaires pay their fair share.
I'm Rafi Boudjikanian in Cowansville, Quebec with the Bloc Québécois, a whirlwind of battleground ridings and glad elbowing for leader Yves François Blanchet as he tries to parlay his boost in opinion polls after the English language debate into enough seats to hold the balance of power.
I have many options, many ideas. Sometimes it's laws, sometimes it's motions, sometimes it's negotiations, sometimes it's being behind closed doors and saying this is what should happen. What do we do, and do we do it together or one against another?
Still, his rise in popularity has not pushed the Bloc's projected seat count past the 32 it held in the last parliament. Blanchet says 40 is the dream. Anything beyond 32 tomorrow is a nice evening.
I'm Travis Danraj with the People's Party of Canada campaign. Maxime Bernier is drawing big crowds in small towns. His growing support a significant development in this campaign.
If you vote for what you believe, if you vote for yourself, if you vote for the country, you won't split any vote.
The former Conservative cabinet minister has been delivering a message of fighting the establishment, COVID restrictions, and vaccine passports.
And I think he's going to fight for us, especially when it comes to the lockdowns and everything. I think that's going to make he's going to make a huge difference.
Bernier is not spending election night in his Quebec riding of Beauce. Instead, he is headed to Saskatoon, where a large maskless rally is planned despite COVID-19 restrictions in place.
I'm David Thurton with the Green Party in Toronto, where Annemie Paul is ending her campaign where it began. Today she had a blistering critique of the climate plans of the other parties.
I want to say this very clearly to the voters of Canada. There is simply no way for us to continue building new pipelines, subsidizing oil and gas, investing and green lighting oil and gas exploration projects, and fracking gas. Okay, so anyone who is telling you that we can do that and do our fair share is selling you snake oil.
On the eve of an election, clearly she sees a benefit to focusing on the party's core issue and its plan to phase out fossil fuels.
On this election eve, let's bring in our chief political correspondent, Rosemary Barton. And Rosie, let's look at the leaders, beginning with Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, probably the person who has the most at stake here, Ian, given that he called the election, he says, because he wanted Canadians to weigh in on the direction of the country, but also because 35 days ago, the polls looked pretty different and the allure of winning a majority government was too great to ignore. Now, Mr. Trudeau is fighting to keep his job. It has been a much tougher campaign than he probably imagined, and tomorrow we will see whether his political gamble has paid off or whether it was a miscalculation.
And the other leaders?
Yeah, lots of things at stake tomorrow. The the direction of the country could change, but also the direction of a number of political careers. Will Aaron O'Toole's decision to pull the Conservatives to the middle pay off for him, bring him to government? Does the People's Party of Canada eat away at that enough to prevent it from happening? Does the Bloc support grow, stop other parties from picking up seats in Quebec? And can the NDP translate support in polls into actual seats? And if not, what does that say about its potential for growth? And finally, can the Greens hold on to any of their seats tomorrow? Some of these leaders, I think it is fair to say, will probably see the end of their political careers in the days ahead.
It was a long day for you today, Rosie. It'll be even longer tomorrow. Thanks for this.
Thanks, Ian.
And before that, Rosie will be back. She'll ask the At Issue gang about the final pitch to voters. Chantal, Andrew, Althea, and Elamine will weigh in, and they'll tell us what they'll be watching for as those results roll in on election night. With the Liberals and Conservatives so close, much could be decided by the heavily populated suburban region around Toronto. It is home to millions of voters. Much of this important region appears to be leaning red, but that's not true everywhere. We sent Talia Ricci to the riding of Markham Stouffville, about 40 minutes north of Toronto. And as she shows us, there is considerable support for other parties as well.
For this group of friends in Stouffville, this Tim Hortons parking lot is a meeting spot.
We have a teacher, we have a worker, we have retired people. They just come here to talk and, enjoy each other's company.
Much of that talk has involved tomorrow's election.
Tired of politics. Hoping that O'Toole will get in.
What are some important issues for you?
Basically, the price of food, price of gas, all this carbon tax.
I voted for the Green Party. I want to save a tree. Look around us in Stouffville. Building, 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 building.
I'm voting Conservative. Military folks should not be homeless. They should have affordable housing. People who've worked 30, 40 years of their lives and they still can't afford where they live. It's just, so pensions are not big enough.
This member of the Friends Circle is leaning NDP, partly because he likes their leader, Jagmeet Singh.
It's just a gut feeling. He feels like a real people person, right?
And around town, more people shared their opinions.
I am a permanent resident in Canada, so I can't vote yet. If there will be any change, will be a change for the left, for a more progressive Canada. This is my hope.
How are you feeling ahead of the election tomorrow?
I'm not feeling hopeful, but I hope that PPC gets a seat in the House, because freedom over your body and any medical procedures is a basic human right, and so I don't agree with vaccine passports.
I still vote for Liberal because in general I think that is the other guy is still sort of new, especially in this timing. I prefer having the one that who already running the system.
Regardless of the result, expect some lively banter back at this parking lot tomorrow. How did you all meet each other?
Just Tim Horton. Somebody held the door. Hello.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Stouffville, Ontario.
There's a morning group.
Oh, we're now less than 12 hours to the beginning of voting day. The Liberals and the Conservatives appear to still be in a neck-and-neck race. Here's how the polls stand tonight. And let's bring in Eric Grenier, the man behind CBC's excellent poll tracker. I've been watching Eric so closely throughout this campaign. Also, the RIT. And Eric, take us behind the numbers. And what's our best guess now in terms of what seat totals might be?
Yeah, we've been seeing this very close race between the Conservatives and the Liberals really for the last week or so, with no real indication that either party has any momentum. It looks a lot like where things were in 2019. And because of that, we can say that the Liberals are more likely to emerge with more seats out of this, because they lost the popular vote 2 years ago, but they won the most seats. And when you still see that the Liberals have a lead in Ontario, they're still a lead in Atlantic Canada, most polls are showing them ahead of the Bloc Québécois in Quebec. They still have enough support to get them ahead of the seat count ahead of the Conservatives, who are still putting up pretty big numbers in places like Alberta and Saskatchewan, which give them a good popular vote number, but don't award them many new seats that they don't already have.
So one thing that seems pretty clear is that it has been looking close. It likely will be close tomorrow. So what are some specific regions that you're keeping a close eye on?
Well, Atlantic Canada will be the first place to close, so it'll give us some early indications of what's going on. But really, this election is going to come down to whether the Conservatives can break into the Greater Toronto area, which they were not able to do in the last two elections, and then in the Lower Mainland and British Columbia. The polls are suggesting it is a very close race, with all three parties contesting a lot of different seats, and with a lot of mail ballots also coming from British Columbia. It could be the place to watch, and it could be the place to watch for more than just tomorrow night.
We keep hearing that in British Columbia, that it may make the difference. Maybe tomorrow night's the time it does. Eric, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And wherever you live in this country, however you choose to vote, remember, CBC is Election Central. Join our Canada Vote special right here tomorrow night.
Watch your vote count with CBC News, your coverage headquarters on election night. Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton will lead our coverage and our analysis, breaking down the swing ridings, the key strategies, and those unpredictable moments. Andrew, Adrian, David Cochran, and I will bring you the results as polls close across the country, coast to coast to coast.
This is what the country looked like on election night in 2019. On Monday night, we're going to fill in those blanks.
All you need as the biggest night in politics unfolds. Coverage starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow and goes all night. You can join us on CBC Television and CBC News Network, on radio and online, and through CBC Gem, where we'll have coverage in American Sign Language.
The impact of COVID on this election is hard to miss. The fourth wave felt from coast to coast to coast. And in Alberta, by some measures, the pandemic has never been worse. Going into the weekend there were 215 COVID patients in intensive care. That number is higher than in Alberta's previous waves. COVID patients fill more than 76% of all available ICU beds in the province, and many don't make it out alive. COVID deaths are increasing, nearly 80 reported in the past week alone. And new infections keep emerging in Alberta at an average rate of more than 1,600 a day. That's more than twice as fast as any other province. Amid warnings of a healthcare collapse in the province, Renee Filipponi reports that doctors are preparing for the worst, and anyone who needs hospital care could be feeling the impact already.
And I was pretty much devastated.
After waiting more than 3 years in pain, Hetty Peterson's knee surgery was canceled.
I've been waiting for so long, and so I went home, and I was in tears.
An example of the growing impact the fourth wave is having on non-COVID patients in Alberta.
Most of the operating rooms have been used for surge beds. Recovery rooms have been used for surge beds. I've also read that orthopedic surgeons have been asked to step in.
Staff on the front lines are preparing for the moment beds run out, revisiting protocols for choosing who gets intensive care and who is left to die.
We're broken. We are tired. We cannot believe that we've gotten here. And next week we're going to be doing a lot of socialization and education of the triage protocol, and even just saying those words out loud and talking about those with our colleagues seems so surreal.
It's led to a plea from union leaders urging the province to get help from the federal government and bring in the military.
We are in a crisis, an unprecedented crisis, a looming collapse of the healthcare system.
In response, the province says the military and Red Cross would have limited ability to provide clinical resources, but if their assistance is needed, they will make a request. All this amid continued protests against the moves the Alberta government is taking.
They're screwing us square into the ground with these vaccine passports, and they're separating us. This isn't what Canada's about.
Starting tomorrow, Albertans will be required to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test for many businesses and events. Part of the province's new measures to stop this latest surge. But even if they work, hospitals expect to feel the impact of this wave for weeks. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Vancouver.
Resources are so stretched in Alberta's hospitals, one Calgary doctor reached out on Twitter calling for vital supplies. Dr. Stephanie Cooper made an urgent plea for 50 oxygen monitors for pregnant COVID patients, adding, "Way out of my league here, as we all are." Dr. Jason Weatherald answered the call.
And when I saw it, I was just really sort of astonished by it that, it had come to that point.
After dropping off 10 of the monitors, he thought he'd gotten a parking ticket.
But then I looked at what was underneath my windshield wiper, and it was a note from me a high school student just writing that that they appreciate all the work that we're doing as healthcare workers, and it caught me a little bit off guard, and I just thought it was a really nice act of kindness that I thought we should share to our colleagues and to everybody else that's going through this right now.
A sign the dedication of doctors and nurses is not going unnoticed. Party leaders have made their pitches, but has the tone been too divisive?
We do not need a conservative government that won't be able to show the leadership on vaccinations.
Canadians are angry because they're tired of being lectured by Justin Trudeau.
Coming up, Rosie Barton is here with the At Issue panel to unpack it all. Plus, an uncertain future for thousands of Haitian migrants at the U.S. border.
We need you to tell every single country out there that this border is closed.
And one man who's fed up with dating apps is asking friends for help.
Maybe putting yourself out there, or just having your friends, put you out there in a fun, safe way.
And there's big money involved. We're back after the break. Welcome back. We're watching a couple of other elections tonight. First to Russia, where Vladimir Putin's United Russia Party leads the early ballot count. Opposition groups aligned with Alexei Navalny were banned from running, but Navalny's allies pushed a strategy of supporting the party with the best chance of winning in their district. And in Hong Kong, a select group of 4,900 people are voting for a committee which in turn will choose the city's next leader and some legislators. Chief Executive Carrie Lam says the idea is to have loyalists to China run Hong Kong. Pro-democracy candidates are off the ballot. Many have either been jailed or fled abroad. And in Afghanistan, women demanded they be allowed to continue taking part in government and education, protesting outside the former Ministry of Women's Affairs. The demonstration came as Kabul's city government told female workers to stay home. When the Taliban was last in power, women were banned from work and education. Girls were kept out of school. Thousands of Haitian migrants have had their dreams of American asylum dashed tonight. Planes delivered them back to their homeland, a land that some left more than a decade ago, seeking a better life. Katie Simpson shows us more on this latest migrant crisis.
The makeshift camp is now home to thousands of people, migrants, mostly Haitian, aiming to start a new life in the U.S., waiting in brutal conditions to be processed by border agents. A surge so overwhelming, the Biden administration announced a new plan to swiftly deport those who do not qualify for asylum.
We are working around the clock to expeditiously move migrants out of the heat elements and from underneath this bridge to our processing facilities in order to quickly process and remove individuals from the United States consistent with our laws and our policies.
Flights have been arranged to speed up deportations within a 72-hour period. This ends the temporary pause the U.S. had placed on sending asylum seekers back to Haiti following a deadly earthquake last month. The country is also increasingly unstable after the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. I don't want to be deported. If I am deported now, I'll die in Haiti, says Alex Rosary, a 36-year-old Haitian migrant. He doesn't want to return because he says there is no security, there are bandits, and civil war. In recent months, the U.S. has experienced a record-breaking increase in asylum seekers, overwhelming an already stressed immigration system.
President Biden, if you are listening, we need you to tell every single country out there that this border is closed.
But the president is being criticized by members of his own party for the deportation decision. Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar called it completely inhumane, writing Haitians are experiencing a crisis after crisis and deserve compassion.
The White House has vowed to tackle the root causes of migration, but that process does not move quickly, and so far it has done little to change what's happening at the southern border. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
After a year when television became an even more important pastime for lockdown Canadians, the Emmy Awards have come back in force.
Have you ever seen a screen you thought was great? 80 inches on the wall, your wife trying to hate.
The host, Cedric the Entertainer, started the show, which looked a lot different than the subdued virtual ceremony of last year. This one held with guests under a large tent.
Hannah Waddington for Ted Lasso.
Brett Goldstein, Ted Lasso.
Well, new show Ted Lasso exploded onto the comedy landscape, and it took home multiple awards. And Michael K. Williams was remembered, best known for his work on The Wire and Boardwalk Empire. He died earlier this month at the age of 54. After the break, we'll return to our election coverage with Rosemary and the At Issue panel.
Ian, tonight we're looking back at the campaign, at some of its turning points, and looking ahead, what all of us should be watching for tomorrow. Chantal, Andrew, Althea, and Elamine will join all of us right after this.
Thanks, Rosie, and we wanted to hear from as many Canadian voters as we could ahead of tomorrow. Earlier today on CBC's cross-country checkup, I asked callers what message they want their vote to send. There was lots of lively and thoughtful exchanges. Here's a sample.
We should have been focusing on the fourth wave, that, this is the first time kids have gone back to school in 2 years. Those should have been the main priority. So that's my question for Justin Trudeau. Why, and was it worth it?
It really, really bothers me that this election was called for no real reason, just spending so much money, and that has made me go to the Conservatives this election. $600 million is a lot of money.
Here in Alberta, it's virtually impossible to discuss politics with Conservatives because they're so caught up in ideology. And we can see what ideology has done here in Alberta recently with the COVID epidemic. It'd be better if more Canadians paid attention and be able to make better decisions when it comes to vote.
Well, I'm looking for a courageous leader. The biggest issue for me is climate action, which of course is linked to Indigenous rights and a just recovery. I want to see someone that's willing to make changes that will allow my son, who's 5 years old, to have a future.
I'm with the People's Party of Canada and Maxime Bernier.
Is there anything that you've seen or heard from the party or its supporters, its candidates, that gives you pause at all, that makes you uncomfortable?
No.
Okay.
I'm actually very comfortable.
How would you describe yourself as on the eve of the election?
Honestly, I'm just going to vote, and I think a lot of us just need to just do that. Do what little you need to feel good about it and vote.
The party with both the ability to stop the Conservatives and the best plan is the Liberal Party of Canada.
After the biggest health and economic crisis in our history, we need a plan. We need an ethical government focused on the well-being of Canadians.
You Democrats are fighters. We're going to fight the climate crisis. We're going to fight to make sure you have a home that you can afford.
We will be stronger the morning after the election. We will get better results for Quebecers.
The choice I hope you will make is to elect more Green MPs.
Party leaders made their final pitch to voters today on what was the last of a 36-day campaign. So as our countdown to election night begins, what was this election really about? And what were its turning points? At Issue is here for a special Sunday edition. Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, Althea Raj, who's traveling with the Liberal leader, and Elamine Abdelmahmoud. Good to see everyone. Thank you for being here. We're going to do a lot of talking tomorrow, but let's start with the decision to call the election, something we talked about 35 days ago. It's a question that has followed Justin Trudeau through the campaign. Andrew, I'll start with you. Do you think we ever got a clear answer or a clear defense about why this election is happening?
Certainly not a convincing one. I think everybody knew that the reason he called the election was he thought he could win it. And when I say win, he thought he could win a majority. However, he couldn't really say that. So he was caught in this kind of predicament of not being able to say what was clear to everyone. And that played into people's doubts about his authenticity, about his judgment and character, particularly when you had things like the Afghanistan debacle. It really proved to be much more damaging to him than just a 1 or 2 day story.
It is surprising, Chantal, at least to me, how long that conversation lasted. And maybe it's because, as Andrew says, the answer wasn't convincing. Was there, though, a moment for you when the election turned, or a couple of moments, when you could see things moving?
Well, if you're going to be put to a choice, at some point people are going to start focusing on that choice. But I'll go back to what Andrew has said. The problem Justin Trudeau had wasn't just that it's a pandemic and he called an election. It is that he failed to ever be able to show what he could not do with his minority government that having more seats would allow him to do. So on that basis, yes, I think after the debate, people started to focus on who they wanted as prime minister, whether it was Erin O'Toole or Justin Trudeau. But if you look at the polls tonight, the big winner of the campaign tonight is a minority parliament.
Mm-hmm. And Althea, if we end up in that place tomorrow night, which it does seem, the polls seem to be suggesting, what does that mean for Justin Trudeau or anyone, if that's the message Canadians choose to send?
Well, it probably means that he regrets. I'm sure he actually regrets his decision right now. There's lots of people in the Liberal camp who regret their decision. I think that they could have made the case for a majority government should they had wanted to, but I think they felt they couldn't. And therefore, somebody should have hit pause and said, well, we can't truthfully ask people for majority government because we don't feel we have a convincing argument. Maybe we shouldn't go to the polls at all. What it means for Justin Trudeau's future, he seems to suggest that he intends to stay here for a long time. And I think that it will take people around him, say, leaving him and feeling like that he is being pushed out in some ways. I mean, this is not really the typical Liberal Party. This is Justin Trudeau's party. And so I don't think even if he gets, like, let's say 140 seats, he's necessarily leaving. I just don't think he's going to be around for the next election. If Erin O'Toole doesn't win, there will be a mutiny. There is already a mutiny in caucus, I would say. It's just not public. And his days are clearly numbered.
Okay, Elamine, what do you think has been sort of the, I don't know, what has this election ended up being about? Or is that sort of depend on where you're sitting?
I mean, I don't actually agree that Justin Trudeau has an answer what this election is about. It's just that he kind of answered it a little bit too late. And it wasn't even him doing the answering as much as it was events doing that for him. And I don't know how much credit you can give him for that, but it seems like retroactively the election ended up being about COVID management. But that happened just in the last 3 or 4 days or so. Right. And for weeks and weeks, people made all kinds of comments about how there's very little contrast compared to Erin O'Toole and Justin Trudeau in terms of their plans. And then you get to this final stretch, 4 or 5 days, and the Jason Kenney story happens, and Erin O'Toole, that clip from Erin O'Toole keeps being circled around everywhere that you look. And so suddenly that contrast is back on. And the idea that these parties and their approach to COVID management is different is back on. It just kind of happened very late, and Justin Trudeau himself didn't make the argument. Events kind of made it for him.
Okay, Chantal wants in, then I'll go to Andrew. Yep.
I do want him because unless you think, and possibly it's going to be a fact of life, that COVID is going to stretch on for another 4 years, there was nothing to stop Justin Trudeau from continuing to manage COVID, and nothing standing in his way or in the way that he was managing it. I do think differences emerged, and that may save the Liberals tomorrow on climate change, on childcare, on a host of other issues. But if the issue was, can I manage COVID? Well, 2 and 3 months to go here. So maybe, maybe so, but still, this is a government that was allowed to sit for another 2 years and 3 months. So it didn't need a mandate. The country was not divided over its COVID management.
No, although I guess that was his argument, Andrew, that it did need a mandate in order to move forward with some of these things that obviously have become divisive and somewhat fraught.
Yeah, I think more broadly, what the Liberals were trying to make this about was the Tory base and the Tory fringe, and was Erin O'Toole prepared to stand up to them? And what the Tories wanted to make it about was Justin Trudeau and his character and judgment. And we'll see which of those appeals wins the day in that election. But we're talking about this as if this was just one election. I think the other election is not just between the two main parties, but it's the two main parties versus the parties on their fringes. The NDP on the Liberal side and the PPC, the People's Party, on the Conservative side. And for the first time, both of the main parties have had to watch their fringe, and both have had to try to make that appeal in the closing days of the campaign of, don't vote for the party you prefer, vote for us because we're the ones who can stop the other guys. And that's a completely new phenomenon. And again, we're going to have to see how that plays out.
Okay, and Althea, your thoughts on that part of the equation. And I will admit, that is something that is hard for all of us to sort of measure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a new argument for the Liberals. That's their traditional game plan to make an appeal to New Democrats. But it is interesting to hear the Conservatives make the argument for strategic voting. I'm not sure that it's convincing to say Justin Trudeau wants you to vote for the smaller parties. I mean, clearly Justin Trudeau does not want you to vote for the NDP. But it is interesting to hear Aaron O'Toole kind of really tack in the last few days, I would say, with a much tougher anti-Trudeau message to kind of rally those PPC supporters to his side.
Yeah, I wondered if that was about rallying PPC supporters, but also, Elamine, about rallying his own supporters who maybe are starting to wonder about the leader and the things that he's done and the choices he's made.
I mean, listening to Aaron O'Toole talk today, you would think that with all his focus on the getting out the vote, you would think that he is worried that that vote for the Conservative Party is not going to come out, particularly in places like Ontario, where, you see the polling numbers, and in some places the PPC is polling in the double digits, and that's a new phenomenon, and maybe a flank that they didn't have to worry about 35 days ago, and now very much a real threat, right? So that does change the calculus.
Last word to you, Chantal, here.
I don't think the NDP would agree with the description of the NDP being a fringe party on par with the PPC. It has been part and parcel of the picture. It has also been a significant influence in the House of Commons for 50 years.
Yeah.
So new maybe to the Conservatives, but is a divided Conservative House new to Canada?
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back with another round of these guys on At Issue, we will ask from the possible surprises to the storylines that you should be following tomorrow at Issue, on what they will be watching for tomorrow night. Stay with us.
I believe that this election will give us an opportunity to have some candidates elected. But I can tell you that this party is there for the long term. And that's only one step in the construction of a new political party.
That's People's Party of Canada leader Maxime Bernier talking about his hopes for this election. Just one of the storylines, as we were talking about before the break, that we'll all be watching for tomorrow night. Chantal, Andrew, Althea, and Elamine all back to tell us what they will be watching. This is my way of not asking you who's going to win, because it's cruel punishment. And I don't know that any of us really know the answer to that. So I do want to ask, though, what you'll be watching for, whether it be the People's Party or something else. Chantal, you start us off on this one.
I'll be watching the Bloc Québécois because it has been gaining strength since the English language debate, and up to a point, the recommendation of François Legault, the Premier, to not vote for the Liberals or the NDP for government has been offset by that. But that could kill a lot of Liberal hopes, and it could actually do a lot of damage to the Liberal Party, because a strong Bloc is bad news for the Liberals.
Okay, Althea, what are you going to be watching for?
Well, I think we're all watching for everything, but to not repeat Chantal's points, I don't think it's going to happen, but if Maxime Bernier wins his seat, that will obviously give him a much larger platform if he has a voice in the House of Commons. I don't see anywhere else, frankly, where the PPC could win a seat, but what's going to be really interesting Monday is all these 3- or 4-way races. There were a lot of contests in 2019 that were incredibly close, that were just won by a few hundred votes. How that splits, really, I think it's too hard for any of us to really tell. Annamie Paul, if she loses in Toronto Centre, does she immediately resign? Will there only be one Green MP left? Elizabeth May, possibly. Does Paul Manley lose his seat on Vancouver Island?
Yeah.
And then, of course, how everything else shakes up. The other thing I will say is, it's possible we may not know what the result of the election is on Monday night. There are so many mail-in ballots. Lots of mail-in, thousands and thousands of people have asked for mail-in ballots. And so if in the 40-ish ridings that were really close last time, that could mean that we're into Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe, before we find out who is actually going to be governing Canada.
Okay, Andrew, what are you going to be watching for? Althea named a whole bunch of things, so you can name a whole bunch too.
I'll keep it to 3.
Okay, 3 is good.
First, which of the main parties is better able to get their vote out? It's obviously very close in the polls, but turnout will be the important factor. And that comes down to which is the stronger motive force. Is it fear of the Tory base, or is it loathing of the Prime Minister that gets out their respective voters? Secondly, how well do these main parties do at tamping down and forcing these other smaller parties, the supporters of them, to vote for them, that strategic voting imperative? And thirdly, if, as we're all expecting, it is a Liberal minority, is it a strong or a weak minority? Are they able to govern with the support of either the Bloc or the NDP as they can now, or are they beholden to one of those parties where they have the balance of power, or even weaker, do they need to get both of them to support them? And that will obviously decide a lot of things in terms of the power of that government and the future of Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, and the future of the many promises that people make. That's also what, runs at peril in minority governments. Elamine, your thoughts?
Not to give too much of a Toronto answer, but I will be watching close to home. So, the pair ridings, for example, my home riding of Davenport and its neighboring Parkdale High Park, those are ridings where the NDP is campaigning really hard to take those from the Liberals. The Liberals are the current incumbents in those places. If the Liberals are successful in landing you have to vote for us in order to stave away a conservative government, then you'll see it in ridings like Davenport, in ridings like Parkdale High Park. And so I'm watching those GTA ridings to see if the Liberals are able to hold them, or if their grip kind of slips away.
Okay, everyone else did more than one except for Chantal. So I'm giving Chantal one more turn to point out one more thing.
I think the biggest surprise, and I speak possibly for the rest of the panel, is someone winning a majority tomorrow.
Yeah, I think we would all agree with you. So we'll end on a note of agreement, at least for tonight. I am watching to see how late we will be up and how long we will be on TV. And you will all be there from your various locations with us. Thank you all for being here on Sunday, and I'll see you tomorrow for our election night special. And then on Tuesday night, where we will unpack the results. And then on Thursday night, I'm sure someone will do something and we'll have something to talk about. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Now it's back to Ian here in Toronto.
Thanks. And as she mentioned, Rosie will be back tomorrow night for the Canada Vote special, along with Adrian, Andrew, David Cochran, and me. We'll be bringing you the election night results and analysis, and it begins at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on CBC News Network, CBC Television, and CBC Radio 1, and you can stream it on CBC Gem. We're going to leave election coverage for tonight and end on a love story of sorts. One man frustrated with dating apps is throwing money at the problem. Thousands of dollars, in fact.
I'm looking for somebody that's, has a kind heart.
We meet this hopeless romantic in tonight's moment. Stay with us. Dan Hawkins is a bachelor from Vancouver who likes backpacking, painting, and long walks on the beach. But he's tired of dating apps and he's ready to find the one. He's even offering some pretty big cash prizes to friends trying to find his soulmate. Dan and his search for true love is our moment.
I guess it's a social experiment, a collaborative experiment to help me find a lifelong partner. And I'm trying to kind of rely on my social network to help me set me up and meet somebody. I was just sort of quite tired of dating apps, and during COVID it's quite challenging to meet new people. My friendly committee of people that I've found who are willing to help me out on this, they're they can see if it's a good match or if we have some stuff in common. So I send out an email to 20 or 30 friends with kind of instructions about how they can spread my message, and then I would offer sort of incentives for them, rewards of different tiers based on how well their candidates or connections do and their setups do. If I find a lifelong partner, they will receive $5,300. I'm looking for somebody that's has a kind heart and somebody who's curious and maybe has a sense of humor.
So it's unique, and apparently it's legit, though when he sent the email to his friends, at first none of them responded. At least one thought it was spam, not too surprisingly, but they eventually apparently have all chipped in, or many of them anyway, have enthusiastically agreed to be on the hunt. And I can't wait if he does find that partner, and at the wedding or whatever ceremony they have, and somebody asks, how can you put a price on true love? He'll say, I did, $5,300. It's so romantic. That is The National for September 19th. See you tomorrow night.